for the producers and directors of The Electric State, Anthony and Joe Russo, everybody. Come on out, guys. Here they are. Come on. Yes. Please give a warm New York welcome to the only man I trust to guard my galaxy. It's Chris Pratt, everybody. Come on. There he is. And you know her by many names. She's Enola Holmes. She's 11. Today, though, I know her. You know her as Millie Bobby Brown, everybody. Give it up. We should also say hi. You guys have already seen and met Cosmo. Cosmo, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, I'm Kid Cosmo. I say over 100 different words and phrases.
That doesn't happen at every panel I've moderated at a Comic-Con, an actual living, breathing robot. Congratulations on this movie, guys. Like I said, this is a big day for this movie because most folks haven't seen much yet. I'm going to leave it. Let's lead off with Joe and Anthony. I want you guys to help us understand this world that we're diving into in The Electric State. What does the audience need to know about The Electric State?
So The Electric State is a big, epic fantasy adventure. It's set in an alternate version of the 1990s. It sort of reimagines our history as if AI robots existed much earlier than they will, and there was a war between humanity and these robots, and the movie basically takes place in the aftermath of this war, where a girl who has lost her family in the war finds out her brother may still be alive, and she goes on the journey to potentially find her brother, and she encounters some amazing help along the way. And that's the movie, more or less.
Joe, you were saying to me backstage, I mean, this is like, once you guys see the movie, and you can tell from the trailer, this is an ambitious undertaking. You guys don't ever go easy on yourselves. What compelled you that earned many years of your life, your career, to dive into this world? What were you excited about?
I'm exhausted. That's all I can say. We started working on this 5 years ago, so it's been a long journey, but it's a real passion project. We're very, very excited to bring it to audiences. It's massive in scale. We love telling very, very big stories. And it's the first time that we've reunited with, our key collaborators from Avengers Endgame. Marcus McFeely wrote the script. Jeff Ford, who edited all of the movies we did with Marvel, is the editor on this. Alan Silvestri did the score. So this is, this is hopefully as big as it gets for folks. And so if you're hungry for a giant, ambitious fantasy film, or we've got one for you.
So Millie, I would imagine there are a lot of factors that are exciting for you to take this on, working with the Russos, working with Chris for the first time. What intrigued you from the start? What sold you when this came around?
Well, I had the privilege of going to set on Avengers to watch the Russos direct. When I was 13, I was filming Stranger Things, and they invited me. And I remember watching them direct and thinking, oh, I want to be an actor, and work with them. That's so cool. And I made that, my goal. Gosh, many years later, my dad came to me and said, I read a script. I think you should do it. This is one of the best scripts I've ever read. And I trusted his gut, read it, and immediately fell in love with Michelle. And then the fact that the Russos were attached just made me so excited. I had finally reached my dream of being able to work with them. And then, working with Chris was all right.
Retort from Mr. Pratt. Do you have a rebuttal against Millie Bobby Brown?
Well, first of all, how dare you? Yeah, that's my rebuttal.
Okay, that's your rebuttal. let's stay positive, though. You've
Good
worked
one.
with these guys before, but you've never been front and center. Those Avengers movies are gigantic ensembles. It's you and Millie center stage here. It must have been an exciting opportunity to get to work with them in this capacity.
100%. Had intended to take a chunk of time off to be home, and then I read this script, and I was like, fuck, I guess I have to do this movie. It was so good, and opportunities like this just don't come around that often. To work with such an incredible team. We'd worked together before, not just the Russo brothers, and I love you both so much, but also our AD department and the people that, like you mentioned, the editor. I've worked with a lot of these same folks before. I looked at the script. It was original IP. And it's, adapted, of course, from an incredible graphic novel, but it's not the kind of thing that typically gets made to be a blockbuster-style movie like this. It's so original. It's a huge swing, and I thought that these types of movies might be, I don't know, maybe my last opportunity to be in a big movie like this. I have to look at every opportunity like that, and I did, and it was just such a great story. I was moved to tears reading it, and you'll when you get to see the movie, you'll see it is an incredible story. It's so beautiful. It's so original. There's this feel of, an Amblin style world that I loved watching, The Goonies and various other films from the 80s and 90s. It feels that way, but it's contemporary and has themes that are so resonant and important for today in regards to technology and humanity. So it's just a special film, and when something comes along like this, you have to do it. And I had my wife even read it, and she was like, yeah, I think you have to do this movie. So I got permission from Mama and came and got to play with the boys and the girls.
Yes.
Wow, paltry applause. Did I suck? Was that bad? Let me try again. Take two.
Standing O's or nothing for Chris Pratt. Come on, guys. Guys, you have adapted works before, fair to say. Talk to me a little bit about the process of adaptation. This is inspired by a graphic novel. We're going to actually show some imagery from the film that's inspired, I think, by the graphic novel as we talk. But talk to me about the challenges, what you wanted to capture from the source material that was important for you.
Yeah, so, the experience we've had largely with adapting that you're referencing, I think, is with, the 4 Marvel movies we made. Joe and I made those in collaboration with Chris Marcus and Steve McFeely, the writers. And so we were very much working in that same mode on this one, with sort of really exciting, inspiring source material that we are all trying to fashion a story from and fashion a film from. So Simone Steilenhag, the artist who created the graphic novel, The Electric State, amazing artist. He has a lot of very passionate fans around the world. His images are so striking, and when you see them, so Chris Marcus was the first one to see the book, and he brought it to Steve and Joe and I, and he said, I think there's something here. And we just looked at the images, and the story that he kind of unfolds in the graphic novel is very opaque. It's kind of hard to understand it. You get it in glimpses and sort of, but you could tell there's a much larger world behind what he's telling you in the graphic novel that you can only guess at. And it works beautifully for a graphic novel, but of course, in order to tell a 2-hour feature film, you have to get much more specific about the narrative. So we had a great fun sort of diving in and using his incredible artwork as inspiration to figure out what kind of story we could tell in this world. What happened here? You're sort of looking at this world that's been wrecked by a horrible war with robots, and you don't know why, and you don't know how, and you don't know what happened from it, and you're just sort of piecing together what happened. And his art is so fascinating that it just makes you keep chasing it. And I think that's how we eventually got to the movie.
And you've referenced this, so this is, in a sense, a 90s movie, but it's a 90s that has some familiarity to those of us that grew up in the 90s, but it's certainly a different one. Joe, what did you want to allude to in the 90s that we've all experienced? What did you want to retain in this kind of alternate version of it?
I mean, it's fun to, it's a fable, and I think there's some really compelling themes in it about technology, and Anthony and I tend to find that when you put those themes that are very resonant, currently resonant, you put them in somewhere fantastical and fun, it's a little easier to process those themes. So, imagine a 1990s where in the late 50s, you know, Disney invented animatronics that then became sentient and then started demanding equal rights, and that's where the war comes out of. So it's got a very community-esque tone to it, and I think you know, it cherry picks the '90s in a way that, you know, supports that storytelling and supports the theme of the movie. There's a lot of fun stuff in it. There's a lot of fun music. There's a lot of, you know, things I think that, you know, if you were a child of the '90s or grew up in the '90s, that you're going to recognize and have fun with. But it's all just twisted a little bit.
So, Millie, you've done the 1880s, you've done the 1980s, and now you're moving into kind of the 1990s, but again, a different kind of 1990s. You have Pratt on set. You've experienced the 1990s. Were you the default technical advisor to Millie Bobby Brown to explain what it was like?
Cosmo, do you want to take this one? No. Yes, yeah. It's a 90s that is reflective of our modern world. I mean, it's like all of the pop culture icons. We drew everything from the 90s that we could. A lot of references, great music cues, various things that you'll see through the course of the film that if you grew up in the 90s, and it's astounding to you as it is to me that it's now a deep period, like as it's wild.
It's way back.
It's way back.
Okay.
Sorry.
It is. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's as far back now as the 50s was when they did Back to the Future.
Exactly. That's the horrible but true reference point.
Just let that sink in.
Quite a coincidence.
Yeah.
I will say, you mentioned Alan Silvestri, by the way. I mean, I've seen the movie. I've been very lucky enough to see it. And a crackerjack Alan Silvestri score, that brings you right back. Amazing. I mean, was Amblin something you guys talked about with your actors? Were there films referenced to you guys about what they were trying to evoke?
Yeah, without question. I mean, we're Anthony. I grew up in the '80s and the '90s, and a lot of what we do has to do with nostalgia and things that were impactful to us when we were growing up. And you know, Alan Silvestri's scores were, you know, part of some of our favorite movies. You know, we often talk about Back to the Future as the perfect film, you know, and the score has a lot to do with it. One of the great themes in movie history, and you know, so we got the opportunity to work with Alan on Avengers. You can see how, you know, the work he does with the 90-piece orchestra dimensionalizes the storytelling in a way that's evocative of, you know, your favorite you know, giant films, and so we were certainly aspiring to make an Amblin type film or a Zemeckis type movie with this. It is very Zemeckis in tone.
Let's hear a little bit more about your respective characters, as much as you're willing to say. What did you connect with Michelle's storyline in this?
Well, I think I had never done anything like this before. I kind of went into it maybe on the cockier side, thinking that it was going to be like a Vecna situation, Demogorgon, I can take it on, and it was not. It was very different. So as an actor, it challenged me. But another, you know, it's just like finding who she is while filming. I didn't do much prep because I went straight from one film to another. So I really went in with the idea, I just want to be like a 90s Drew Barrymore. And I just remember I kept sending that picture, like this image of her, and I was like, I want my hair to look like this, and this is what I want to wear, and like, I just had this idea of who I wanted, and then I really found who she was as we went along, and the Russos did such like a beautiful job in directing and my trajectory, because I think obviously with playing this kind of angsty, you know, teen, it can easily come across as there's no human left in her, and I think I didn't go through the angsty teen phase yet, but so I kept going back to the Russos. How do you want me to play this and that? So we really found it together, which I think was what I really loved so much about is just it's a collaboration of finding who she is, and now I've found her. I'm so unbelievably proud and happy with the end result.
And for you, Chris, Keats, who when we first see, he's not at his best, fair to say. The world's been through a lot, he's been through a lot. What did you connect with? What did you like about this guy?
Man, these guys gave me such freedom and to help discover this character, and he's really got like a wild look about him, and he's lived a hard life. I was rooting it in a character that I knew growing up, this guy named Kenny Gundacker, who's actually unfortunately no longer alive, but he was my neighbor 30 plus years ago when I lived in Anchorage, Alaska, in this really small apartment complex with my family. He was the son of our neighbor, and I thought that I lived next door to David Lee Roth, because I was about 6 or 7, and I would watch MTV and see, Van Halen in concert, and then I would look in the backyard and see this guy in tiger stripe jump suit, or spandex pants with long blonde iced out hair, and a mini electric guitar jumping on a mini trampoline, just rocking. I was like, no way, that's my neighbor. That guy lives next door. Because my world was so small, I just really thought that was who that was, and he was such a god to me, like the 80s vibe, and he was so irresponsible, and he would take us for water balloon fights and drive us around in his dad's car, and he was probably a terrible influence, and I just loved him, and so he was such a man to me, and so I looked at Keats and I was like, he grew up in the 80s, he would be like this guy. I love the idea that Keats would have been part of a band, and I love the idea that, Keats is a veteran of war, but he's a bit cynical about war because he survived this robot war and this human war and understood, was able to see sort of humanity in these robots, and a little bit cynical about the military-industrial complex. And so it was just a really cool character to play that would be an 80s guy living in the 90s who's past his prime, and I just dove into it. It was so fun.
Probably a high water mark in hair for you, I would say, in your career. Millie, what did you think of Chris's hair when you finally saw him in full Keats mode?
I knew he made a choice for his character.
Thank you. I did. I can't believe they let me. In fact, they really didn't, because halfway through they're like, we have an idea. Maybe he gets a haircut. Remember? I was like, oh, cool, that makes sense. Maybe there's a little robot with scissors that likes to cut people's hair and it just happens to show up and there's a relationship. I think that is how that ended up happening, right?
That's exactly what it ended up being.
I was like, hey, I have an idea how he can get a haircut. It'd be really funny. So yeah, I got to be my best self for a half a movie, and then for the rest of the movie, I got to be the guy that you put on the one sheet. It was fun. It was so fun.
It's a hair evolution. Okay, so we couldn't have a Comic-Con panel without something special for you guys. We're about to show you some exclusive footage. Here's the deal, though. This is just for you guys in the room, so put your cell phones down. We are watching. Cosmo's watching. And this one is just for you. This is an extended clip from The Electric State coming out March 14th on Netflix. Check it out. That felt like genuine Panda Express love. That was from the heart. That was deep. I love it. So anybody recognize Herm's voice, by the way? The giant robot carrying the car there? Anthony Mackie, everybody. Amazing. Can we tease a little bit of Herman's backstory? What do you want to reveal about that character, if anything?
I mean, I think what's interesting about all the lead characters in the movie is that they all have some trauma in their lives that they're running from. And they're all dropouts in their own way. It's, the technology's really pervasive in the movie, but none of them want to participate in it. And they found their own way to escape it. And Herman is a dropout. He's dropped out of robot society, doesn't participate in it. And he and Keats have teamed up, and they've kind of, they live off the grid, basically, and on the run from the law together. Herman is a little bit of a Russian doll, in that he has, different sizes that he comes in, depending on, the job that's required. He's a construction bot, so he's got a 4-foot size, and as you see there, a much larger 20-foot size.
I'm curious. Look, both of you guys obviously have worked with massive effects in TV and film, but when you're playing deeply emotional scenes, with Herman, with Cosmo. I mean, is that just now in part of the skill set? You've kind of done, you know how to do this. Can you talk about the challenges of kind of like being emotionally there when there's nothing in front of you?
I think, me personally, I know Chris had worked before with mocap, and I hadn't ever before. So for me, it was either a tennis ball or it was a costume. It was never the in-between. And to be able to work alongside mocap actors that are really beautiful performers, I really give it to, Devin, who was my mocap actor. She played Cosmo, and she drew out a lot of emotion in me, and I have a lot of emotional scenes with Cosmo. I don't like saying this in front of him. I don't want him to feel like, he's different. He's not, you're not different. But, I had a lot of emotional scenes, and I think the first maybe month or so, it took me a minute, because you really have to leave your humility at the door. You look insane doing it. You do one pass with the mocap actor and one pass with no one, and I'm just looking into air, crying. And I think, it's added to my skill set. And I think I have a huge amount of gratitude to, one, the Russos, but also the mocap actors and team that helped to build the world so we didn't have to do most of the work.
I mean, for you, Chris, I mean, like, seeing that finished scene must be like magic, because you're now seeing the effects, you're hearing Anthony Mackie. None of that is on set. Right. That probably never gets old. You've been in giant effects films before, but it's just a whole other thing.
There's something that's really special about it and remarkable about being in a film that's got so many elements of animation. When you do a live action film, say, limited to a handful of sets, it feels a little bit like doing a play. You're living and breathing in the space, and you're working with the actors. You see their costumes, you see the set, you see the props, and so by the time you sit down to watch the movie, you're just you've already kind of seen the movie because you were there every single day. And the opposite end of that spectrum would be if you only added your voice to an animated movie, like whatever, say Super Mario Brothers movie or something like that.
Did you just self-promo?
It's fine.
Did you just self-promo?
No, I'm ridiculous. Saying, but there you're in your pajamas and you're just giving a voice, and then there's a whole post-production animation process that you're not a part of. So when you sit down and watch the movie, you go, "Wow, that's what that was. I kind of didn't really know." So this is a strange mix of both, and the beauty of being in that is these guys will know. They're never going to be able to sit down and watch a Russo brothers movie as an audience member because they're so intimately connected with every single frame. I mean, they're pulling frames. They know anything you see on that screen is the result of them making a decision as to whether or not it should be on that screen. So they know this film inside and out. So much so that they're completely divorced from any possible reality where they could be swept up in the story. And so for me, sitting and watching this, and I look forward to sitting down and properly seeing it from the beginning to the end, I'm really looking forward to becoming an audience member. And when you have so many elements of animation, it allows you to do that as a performer. And that's a real gift because for the most part, you're in a movie, you're kind of giving it to audiences.
I want to also give some love to the remarkable ensemble of actors, both playing voices of robots, live action, mix of everything. Mr. Peanut, I never had a bingo card that said Mr. Peanut would be voiced by Woody Harrelson in a movie, and wait till you see it, it's amazing. You've got Brian Cox in there, Jenny Slate, Stanley Tucci, Giancarlo Esposito. Just talk to me a little bit about the approach to...
Ki Kwan.
Ki Kwan, amazing, yep. Just the overarching approach to casting an ensemble in something like this.
So, Joe and I, if you look at our work, we are big fans of ensemble storytelling. You can see it in all of our work, our smaller movies, our bigger movies, our television work. We love ensembles. And sometimes we think it's because we come from a big Italian-American family where there was, lots of people in small rooms together talking loudly all the time. And, you just develop a sense of of community and an appreciation for the variety of voices that contribute to your experience. And so in our storytelling, we've always focused on ensembles. And we believe that every member of that ensemble is special and can give you an experience, bring something to the movie that is wholly unique and can be as memorable and valuable as anything else in the film. And that's the way we've always approached our storytelling. So we have a large number of roles, and we try to tell the story from all of their points of view. And part of that is we try to bring really special actors to the role to play all of those roles. So we're very fortunate that we were able to find such an amazing cast to surround these two wonderful leads with. And it's just all a part of the process of trying to make every character special and resonant and meaningful and fun and everything it can be.
It's obviously always a bit of a leap into the unknown for actors when they're going to spend a lot of the film together and they've never worked with each other before. Talk to me about like is it like, did you guys click immediately, and on what level did you guys click and figure out that you were going to vibe together on set?
Yes, we did. I thought we connected immediately.
You did? I'm just kidding. No, we did. Wow. We actually did. No, I'm just kidding. You had that experience?
No.
No, we actually did. We actually met like a few years before, and I'm a huge fan of Chris's. So for me, it was like, that's Chris Pratt. I was in an elevator, and I was like, oh my God, that's Chris Pratt. And then I was like, they were like, oh, Chris Pratt's going to be in the movie. I was like, oh yeah, just casually, like, okay, we're not going to just breeze by that. Like, I'm going to actually co-star with him. And I walked onto set, and of course it's intimidating. Like, I'm 19, I have to be here, and I have to like give you 50%, and I was intimidated. And then he walks onto set, and he's like, hey, as if he's known me my whole life. And I was like, oh, like I feel seen and loved already. And it was an immediate click. And just like, I felt so unprofessional because I laughed every single take. He would make me laugh. And I think just having that kind of energy in any workplace, but on set specifically, creates this sense of trust and love and friendship that I think transpires on screen, which I think is really special and really rare.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I know, you're full of shit. You didn't. But yes, we met when she was very much a child, like at some awards thing, I think, MTV Awards.
The Kids' Choice Awards.
Kids' Choice Awards, yeah, we met. Yeah. That's right, the Kids' Choice Awards. And
where all great friendships are born. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, right? I think that might be where we met.
Probably.
But and I remember just from that moment, she was so sweet and innocent and pure. And of course, I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things, and I've been watching her body of work. It's been awesome to watch her career take off and to see her take over and start to rule the world, right? And so, yes, you can give it up for Millie, who's kicking ass. And so I was really eager to work with her. And, you know, look, these guys can attest to this because they're the same way. Like, there's no room for shitty attitudes. You can have a bad attitude in movie making. It ruins everything for everyone, and then you don't last long. You know, like it sucks when people have a crappy attitude. And so when you show up on set, there's no reason why you should, like, oh, are you having a hard time living your dream? Is that tough for you today? You're like, come on, man, pull your head out and have fun. And we did have a lot of fun, and she's just incredible. She was surrounded by all these animals. She's like, they would yell cut, and she'd go to her phone, and she's finding a home for like some pygmy goat to be adopted to, and like organizing a U-Haul full of pit bull puppies to be taken to Indiana. I'm like, she's got such a huge heart, such a love for animals, such a love for her now husband, Jake, who was on set every day. They're just totally awesome and normal people who live extraordinary lives. And I can see the person in that because I feel kind of the same way in a way. And so we had a great time. We became fast friends, and you can't get rid of me. Sorry.
I'm very glad to have you as my friend.
And everybody here gets a goat or a pit bull on the way out from Millie's farm.
You get a pit bull. You get a pit bull.
Yeah. No, honestly, I could. If you wanted one.
No.
Pull me.
No, seriously.
I'm a hustler.
It's true. It's true. I know. You are the puppy hustler. I remember you being like, we got to get them out while they're still cute.
Yeah, it's true. Oh gosh, people don't see puppies as cute. I just think like senior dogs are the cutest. I felt really bad for actually the Russos because I would bring in like a wagon of puppies and I'd be like, it's a night shoot. I'm keeping up morale.
And it worked. It worked.
It really worked, yeah.
We're actually going to give the audience a little bit of a sense of what the environment was like on set. This is one more clip. This is a behind-the-scenes clip from the Electric State. Again, cell phones down, please. We just don't want to share this outside the room. Here's a look at behind the scenes of the Electric State.
Let's smoke. Neither one of us remembers doing that. There's something in the smoke in that room, I think.
I think we did that like on a whim in 5 minutes. I really don't remember doing it.
How many Beanie Babies are in the collection now do you keep at home, Chris?
Oh, Catherine's got so many of them. She collected them. She's got the tags, the whole thing. Wow. Oh, yeah, she's a massive collector of those things.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I have to pay to store those.
There's the Beanie Baby house over on the Pratt estate. We've teased quite a bit of this movie. We've got like 5 months to go, so I feel like they know enough, right, guys? Is there anything else we need to tell them? Anything a scene to look forward to, a moment? No, you know enough. You know enough, guys.
I mean, I think you don't know enough. Because, like, I love spoilers. Like, it's so fun. But, no, I'm just kidding. They're like, you've never worked with me before. No, but I think that it's worth the wait. And when you watch it, it truly takes you on a journey. And I think the last thing I'll say is, like, escapism is huge. And I think it's so lovely for families to have that moment where they're able to like take themselves out of this world that is so scary and put themselves into a world that is so transformative, and to be able to do that in your home with your family in 5 months' time, I think is going to be, wake up, is going to be really, really amazing, and I cannot wait for you to experience that because I have experienced that with my family.
Well said. I feel like yes. Cosmo, any last words before we wrap up the panel? Cosmo, you good?
I don't think so.
Cool. That's Cosmo, everybody. Give it up one more time for the amazing cast, for Joe and Anthony Russo, The Electric State, March 14th on Netflix. Mark the date. Thank you guys for coming out. Happy Comic-Con, everybody.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you.